For the first example, we will program the quadratic formula, which is shown to the right of the screen. This is a useful program that is used to find the roots or zeros of a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Let's begin programming. Where you want to start is with the program button right here. So let's select that. We want to move to the right where it says New. Right here it says Create New, and we're going to select Enter. Now we're going to name the program, and we'll call it Quad. So we're going to need to use the alpha key to operate all of these letters that are in green. We could also use the alpha lock, which every key that you will select will automatically give you the letter above that key. So let's do that. So second function alpha, and that puts it in alpha lock mode. It says a-lock. Now I'm going to type in quad. Q-U-A-D. So that's the name of the program. So now let's select Program again, and then move over to I/O. And what we want is number 2 for prompt. So I'll select number 2. Now what we want to do is enter in the 3 coefficients for the quadratic equation, and that is a, b, and c. So let's type in a, so we'll go alpha a, separate it with a comma, then b, alpha b, and separate it with a comma, and then alpha c. Then select Enter. Now let's enter in the discriminant, which is, in parentheses, b squared minus 4ac. And let's close the grouping symbol. And then we're going to use a new key, and that is the store key. So we're going to store the b squared minus 4ac into another variable. So let's select store, which is right here, and it puts a little arrow on the screen. And then we're going to select a letter that we want to store that particular value in. Let's store that in D. So I'm going to go alpha and then D. Now select Enter. Let's go back to the program mode. Select Program. And then we want to select number 1, the if statement. Select Enter. And we want to say if this value right here, the b squared minus 4ac, which is stored in D, if D is less than 0. So let's go alpha and then D. And then to get the inequality sign, we're going to go back to the test mode. So you would have to go second function and then select the math key. And then number 5 is less than. And we want to find out if D is less than 0. And then select Enter. And then let's go back to the program mode. And number 2 is then. So let's select number 2. So we have an if-then statement going on right now. And select Enter. we want the calculator to display no real solutions. So what we need to do is select enter, and then we're going to go back to program, and then we want to move over to where it says I/O, and then we want to use the command number 3, DISP, meaning display. So we'll select 3. And now what is it that we want the calculator to display? Well, right here, if d is less than 0, which is the b squared minus 4ac, then we want the calculator to display no real solutions. And remember, the b squared minus 4ac is inside the square root symbol. So if that's less than 0, you know you cannot take the square root of a negative value in the real number system. So we're going to display no real solutions. So we need to do that by entering in some text in quotation marks. Let's go to second function and then turn on the alpha lock. So second function alpha turns on the alpha lock. We'll enter in quotations, which is right here, right above the plus key. Then we're going to type in no real solutions. Right down here, if you select 0, that enters in a space. And then real. And then space again, select the 0 key, solutions. And then we want to end this with the quotation, so select the plus key. And there we have it. Now select enter. Then we want to go back to the program key, move over to I/O. Then we want to look for the command go to. So scroll down. And there it is. Select enter. And then we want to select number 1. And you'll see where that comes in a moment. Then select enter. We're going to go back to program, and then we want to select number 3 for the command else. Select enter. Now let's type in each part of the quadratic formula. And you have to be very careful with this. So let's start out with a left-hand parenthesis, and then another left-hand parenthesis, and then negative b, alpha b, plus the square root of d. And remember, d is the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac. So let's just type in d, alpha d, close the grouping symbol, and then we want to close all this with a right-hand parenthesis. And that's divided by the quantity 2 times a. So 2 alpha a, and then close the quantity, and then that needs to be closed by a right-hand parenthesis. So this is the beginning left-hand parenthesis, and then everything inside here needs to be closed with a right-hand parenthesis. Select Enter. Now we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to change this plus symbol to a subtraction symbol. So let's do that. Now we need to use the subtraction key right here, not the negative key. And then select Enter. Now, I purposely made a mistake here because I wanted to show you some basic editing. So the first thing that I realized is that I needed to store each one of these computations into memory. So I want to assign this particular value to a letter E. So let's move down right here and hit the store key, and let's store that in E. So alpha E. Then we could just move down to the next line that I need to edit, and I want to store this quantity in F. So hit the store key and then alpha F. Now, let's say that I wanted to insert a line right here. So in other words, this particular line shouldn't be here. So all I need to do is go to the beginning of the line, go second function, insert, and then select Enter. And you can see that it just shifted down this whole statement to a new line. And here's the blank line. So you could go up and then enter anything in that you want. So let's just enter in some nonsense. And let's say that you want to get rid of this line. So that's really easy. You can just hit the clear key, and then you would go ahead and select the delete key, and now we're back to what we want. So those are just some basic editing features that you'll use most of the time. Okay, so now let's move down to the next line right here. So after I stored the value in F, I would just select Enter, and that's going to create a new line. All right, so let's hit the Program button, and let's move over to the I/O, and then we want to display. So number 3, and what do we want to display? So we're going to enter in some text. So let's enter in solutions. So let's use the alpha lock, second function alpha. Remember, anything we display we want in quotation marks, and we'll type in solutions. Okay, and then we want to close any type of text in quotation marks if we're in the display mode. And there we have it. Now, what do we want to display? Well, we want to display the solutions. What are the solutions going to be? Well, remember we stored this in E and this in F. So we want to display E and F. So I'm going to separate this with a comma. You notice right here you have a little A flashing. That means you're still in the alpha lock mode. So if I hit alpha again, it goes away. Now I can select the comma and then enter in E. So alpha, E, and then separate that with a comma, and then alpha F. And then select enter. Now remember we had that go to number 1, and let's just move up. And there it is, go to 1. So we have to have a label for this because the go to 1 searches for a label. So we're going to select the program key, and then we're going to look for LBL. So let's scroll down, and there it is, number 9. So I can select enter, and then we want to put number 1 here because we had go to 1 and we want LBL 1. That's the end of the program. So now I'm going to go second function and quit. Now if everything worked out right, the notation and the actual program, then we should be able to run this program and get some accurate results. So for the first example, we're going to go ahead and solve the quadratic equation x squared subtract 5x subtract 14 equals 0. So in this case, a equals 1, b equals negative 5, and c equals negative 14. So how do we run this program? Well, if we select program, we can see now that we have the name quad. And remember, we named this program quad. So select enter. It says program quad, select enter again. Now it's asking us for the value of a. So that is 1. Select enter. Then it asks for the value of b. That's negative 5. Select enter. And then it asks for the value of c, and that's negative 14. Select enter. And then it gives us our solutions, 7 and negative 2. And right here it tells us that the program is done. Now let's go to example number 2. So we want to solve the quadratic equation 4x squared plus 11x subtract 20 equals 0. The value of a is 4, b is 11, and c is negative 20. So let's run the program again. Now, all we have to do is just select enter, and then it will repeat our prompts for a, b, and c. So a is 4, enter. B is 11, enter. And C is negative 20. Select enter, and here's our solutions. X equals 1.25 and x equals negative 4. These are also called the roots of the equation, or the zeros of the equation. Now, let's do one more example, which is the equation 2x squared subtract 5x plus 8 equals 0. In this case, a equals 2, b equals negative 5, and c equals 8. So again, if I select enter, I could run the program. You could also go back to the program button, and then you'll see the name quad, and then select enter. And then you'll get program quad, select enter again, and then you'll input the values. So a equals 2, b equals -5, and c equals 8. Select enter, and here it says no real solutions. So what that means is that the discriminant, that b squared minus 4ac, was less than 0. Remember, we assigned that value to d, and if d was less than 0, we wanted the calculator to display no real solutions. And there you have it. This is a simple program to use when you need to find the zeros or the solutions for a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula.